So, hello guys, I'm just trying to figure out the fucking order that I read this in. I am doing an update, like I said I would, monthly, of the books that I've read. Now, a lot of these books I don't have with me for several reasons. One was audio. Two, one I sold after reading it. I did like it. I did. I'll get into it, why I sold it. But also I got rid of so many books. I got rid of literally half my books because there's no need for me to hold on to them if I'm not going to read them again. I'm trying to keep books that mean something to me. So that's why I did that. But anyways, okay, let's just get into it. So, first off, the audiobook that I read was called Stress Test, and it was by William Cooper? I can't remember his surname, but anyways, it was actually very good. I gave it 5 stars, I believe. I didn't expect it to be good at all, I'll be honest, because every time I was listening to these free audiobooks, they were all so shit, and I was like, no wonder this is free. But this one, I was shocked that it was free because it was so good. It made sense, the writing was clever, there were no mistakes in the book. It's basically about Donald Trump and why he failed, and it's very clear that the author is coming from a perspective of someone who shares the same beliefs as me or the people who are against Donald Trump. And so it was refreshing for it to not just feel like I'm reading facts and it's just boring, whereas it was facts and it was educational, but it was also kind of funny and relieving to have like a grown male kind of share a view with you. So yeah, I really liked it. I think it was good. The only thing I would change is the cover. Please change the cover. Then I read Skinny Legs and All by Tom Robbins. This is, I don't know where it is. It's somewhere. Oh, maybe I sold that as well. It was my mum's, so I don't... Yeah, I really wanted to love Tom Robbins. He is my favourite singer's favourite author. And I liked it, but I couldn't understand what was going on. There was a fork and a sock, and all these inanimate objects were alive, and then there were people who were alive, and I just felt, after reading The Unbearable Lightness of Being, I felt like that book, Skinny Legs and All, was trying to be what this book is, which is like a book about life and philosophy and psychology, like how we are as humans, the human condition, and fucked up but funny stories about human life. And I love that genre. That genre is amazing, and I can so get into it, but I just think it wasn't perfectly executed in this book specifically. I liked how it was written. I'm not saying he's a bad writer, he was a good writer, but the plot itself, I was lost. I was literally, it takes a lot to make me lost when it comes to a book, but this had me absolutely gone. I couldn't understand a single thing. So then I read Ariadne. Now this is the book that I sold. Okay, I really liked it. I think I gave it 4 stars. I also think I gave Skinny Legs and All 3.5 stars. But yeah, I gave Ariadne 4 stars or 3.5. I think it was 4. It's by Jennifer Saint. And I don't know, I really liked it. I just felt like Ariadne, the way she was written, had no personality to her. And I know that it's hard, probably, I mean, I would find it impossible to write a retelling of a story and keep it accurate and have your own kind of twist in there and balance all of those aspects out. But I just didn't love it. I liked it, I just didn't love it. And I didn't feel, as a Greek person, this is kind of why I wanted to make this video. It's because I'm Greek and I grew up with these myths and stories and morals and those Aesop, what's it called? I can't remember what they're called, but you know what I'm talking about. I grew up with these, you know, this is my culture, this is my background, and I found it, I didn't want to touch it really for a while. I didn't find it intriguing until recently to kind of go into the Greek mythology of books, of retellings. And I just feel like with Greek mythology, women never win. And that's not the author's fault at all. But that's how that felt. It felt like a retelling which was just so depressing. And the reason I say that is because I then went to read Madeline Miller's Song of Achilles and Circe, and they were done very differently. I'm keeping these books because I love them. And I'll explain the difference in that, because I just think there's no harm in retelling a story in a happier way, or just like a happier ending or something. I don't know, I'm a sucker for a happy ending, and although I know these stories and I know how like depressing they are, there's like disloyalty and murder and betrayal and assault, and you know, it's very dark shit. If you're trying to retell this story or romanticize this story, which I don't personally find anything wrong with because it's a fucking story in the first place, you have to go about it in a certain way. You can't just say the story as it is. If you're retelling it, retell it. Tell it in a different way instead of just telling the story as we know it, kind of thing. I don't know, that's how I felt. I'm not saying she didn't change it at all or like she butchered it. She didn't. I just felt like nothing new. I felt like I was just reading the mythology, you know? So I liked it, but I didn't love it. That's how I felt about that. So then, when I go through phases of reading books are along the same genre, so like for example my phase at the moment is Greek mythology, I like to separate them with books in between where they're different genres, so I don't find myself in a slump. So the next book I read was How to Fake It in Hollywood by Ava Wilder. I think I gave this 4.5 stars. I kind of loved it. I kind of did. I kind of loved it. I think, again, my issue with this, similar to the last book, romance book I read, which was It Happened One Summer, is these girls are lacking personality. I need the author girlies to hop on personality trains, please. Because the way they write men is so good. Because as women, we know what we want in a man. We know what we want to read about a man. We know what we want in a man who's in a romance. But I don't think they're thinking it as deeply with the women. And that sucks, because if I want to live vicariously through this woman, how am I meant to if I find her fucking boring? So I felt like this character lacked depth. I mean, with both this one and It Happened One Summer, both women had like a sad backstory and that was it. Whereas the men had issues here and now, and they were dealing with those issues here and now, and that's what made them real, instead of, oh, I'm a tragic heroine and I'm a femme fatale and I needed to be saved so I did it myself. But I actually didn't do it myself. I just coped through alcohol and shitty things, but I'm never gonna speak about that, and I don't deal with it anymore. So it's like, what the fuck is the point of mentioning it then? See what I mean? Whereas the men are actually going through shit, and that makes it realistic, and the way that they deal with it is also realistic. So I loved the initial plot. I think it was also well written. I think that the male character was perfectly formed, but I think the female characters in rom-coms at the moment need to be fleshed out way more, like way more. So yeah, I think I gave it a 4.5, I think. Then I went on to The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. Oh my god, this book, I love this book. Reading this book was like reading Call Me By Your Name for the first time again, but better because I watched the movie before and I preferred that. But it was just like, this is how you do a retelling. This is how you do it. This is how you do it. I'm not just saying that because it's a queer story, but it's tragic. It's still these tragic mythologies, and then by the end there's still this sense of light and love and hope. Even though it's depressing throughout the entire thing and you get so frustrated with these characters, the ending still feels like, oh, okay, I can breathe kind of thing. Instead of, oh, I just read someone's trauma and that was it. I love this. I got so attached to the characters. I think, I don't know why, but I struggled to like pick up queer books. I think a lot of them put me off in the sense of that I'm scared they're gonna have a lot of stereotypes or tropes and shit. I think, I'm gonna be honest, I think Evelyn Hugo and the Seven Husbands really put me off reading queer stories for a while, because I just, why is a straight white woman talking about a Hispanic queer woman in the first place? But also in just, it was a really shit book. So picking this up again, like picking up a queer book and it being not about I'm gay or like representation, and it just being in the story so naturally, I love that, and I think it was so well done. I gave this a 5 stars. It was just fucking brilliant. I absolutely loved it. Then I read The Unbearable Lightness of Being by Milan Kundera. Similar to Skinny Legs and All, I can't really tell you what the fuck it's about. It's no, this one was more clear. It's about a couple and people they meet, and this is something you know from the get-go, so I'm not spoiling anything, but their unfaithfulness. And usually I can't touch books where the main plot is unfaithfulness. Not just because I've been through that, but because I find it so pointless. I'm like, why? What is the point in this being the main plot? It's not fun. It doesn't make me smile. It's not funny. It's just depressing. And if I'm attached to the characters especially, I just feel sorry for them, and I hate that. I don't want to go to bed feeling sorry for characters or like depressed. So I never understand the point. However, I kind of get it with this book. I think this is the only book I can kind of get it with. And I don't know the reason behind that. Like, I wish I did. It's interesting because it is about the human condition, and I think it was the way it was written. Milan writes it in a way where he tells you these are characters, these aren't real people, and he continues to remind you, I made these people up, I'm making this story up, instead of you being immersed in a real life and it's just a depressing throughout kind of life. He's just trying to teach you something in a fictional story, and if you said that to me, I don't know if I'd go, oh yeah, I'd enjoy that, but I did enjoy it. And he constantly points out these flaws, and he's like, this is a fucked up person, this is a flawed person. And instead of romanticizing it or being like, this is love, this is life, he's like, no, this is fucked. And like, these are the consequences of these actions. And I kind of love that. And he still gave them, in a way, like the way he wrote it, it was like a happy ending, like you, but at the same time you do wish that the unfaithful people in it get their karma, and they do, and then you're just like, well, this is what a fucked up life leads to. And so it's kind of pleasing in that way. It's pleasing that you see their karma unravel, and it's pleasing to see at the same time, because you're attached to them, some form of ending that doesn't feel so miserable or not worthwhile reading the whole book. So I really enjoyed it. I think I gave it 4, just because it wasn't the best book ever, but it was so well written and I understood it, and I don't think I've read anything successfully like it. So finally I read Circe. This fucking book. Again by Madeline Miller. I'm pretty sure I gave this 5 stars. This is how you give a retelling whilst also giving the woman, the main female in it, a personality. I am so sick of reading books where women just don't have a personality, because like, I don't know what's going on in the book world for these women to be so bland and boring. But to have a retelling where the woman had a personality is refreshing, because I felt like with Ariadne, that Ariadne didn't have much of a personality, to be honest. I felt like her sister, I can't remember her name, but I feel like her sister had more of a personality, but she was not really in it that much. She was in it, but not like the main character. So I feel like with Circe, it was lovely to read book front to back and watch this character grow and change whilst remaining having a personality. And also, again, it's that retelling that Madeline Miller does where it's like, okay, this is a depressing as fuck story. How can I end this in a way that gives my reader peace? And I love that. Give me that peace. I'm not trying to go to bed sobbing. Sometimes I am, but I'm not really. And so she just gives you that like satisfaction at the end, which is like, oh, okay, I can, yes. Instead of, well, that was fucking depressing. So at the end of the day, I think Madeline Miller is my favorite Greek mythology reteller. And that's coming from a Greek person who knows these stories by heart and grew up with these stories, and it's super judgmental anyway of books and people who touch things from our background and culture like that and want to retell stories in general. So yeah, I think that she does it perfectly. I think she knows what she's doing, and I don't know if she has another one. I haven't looked it up, but if she does, I'll be reading it. I don't know when, but I'll be reading it. At the moment, I am reading Build Your House Around My Body by Violet Cooper-Smith, and I'm a quarter through and I have no idea what's going on. It's weird as fuck, so I don't know how I feel about it. But yeah, it's only a quarter through, and I've bought loads of books because I'm going away and I'm gonna buy loads of books there for a month. So I'm excited to read all the new books that I have. Anyways, I love you guys. Thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you in my next video. Bye.